Well, good morning, friends. This is Bob Ferguson, and today I'm here with my friend, Dr. Lisa Ossian, who is running for Senate District 44. I think most of us agree that this is the most consequential election of our lifetime, both on a national level, but it's also extraordinarily important on our state and local level.
Mhm.
Who represents us really makes a difference. And the reason why I support Lisa is I think she has the right temperament, the right background, and a very, very deep understanding of the fundamental issues that affect all of us, that affect our quality of life. So, Lisa, thank you very much for being here. And I'm going to jump right into it. Tell me the three issues. I know there's many, right?
Right,
But tell
right.
me the three issues that keep you up at night that have motivated you to make this race, because it's kind of somewhat thankless thing to run for political office, and my hat's off to you. So,
Mhm.
what are you focusing on?
Well, the first, and I remember this back in February, and I remember texting my friends about it. It was the Teamsters protesting Dickey's what were called union busting legislation, and that, and it was so if he had the Teamsters that riled up about union rights, which is something I have felt very near and dear. I have been an ISEA member since 2001. I'm a historian, so I have studied labor issues, for decades, and that. And for Dickey's actions to promote that kind, and it was aimed at him. It wasn't just the legislature in general, and that, but he had had where unions would not be able to recertify. A manager could just simply not turn in the list. Was the point of it? And so it was so blatantly, for that. And then when you start looking at, Dickey's resume that's listed, and that it's extraordinarily thin. He's only worked for his father. So he has no idea, no empathy for what it means to apply for a job, compete for a job, hold a job, and how vulnerable you can be, particularly without a union backing you. So that was my um, first really call, and that the Teamsters, caught my attention.
And the Teamsters are backing you.
Yes, yes. So one of my former students is now treasurer of Local 90 in Des Moines. And so it was very nice for him. We had a phone conversation. He still calls me Dr. Ocean. He said, as a matter of respect. And that. So it's nice to see your influence as a professor, radiate out in them.
So great. So, what's issue number two?
Issue number two are the schools, and that I am thoroughly public schools. My grandfather graduated from Iowa State in 1933, depths of the Depression, put himself through school, working, and became an agricultural education teacher. I have my aunts have all been involved in school teaching and that. And so I've benefited everywhere from kindergarten through graduate school. It has been public institutions. And being a member of the ISEA and being on the national board and lobbying, with our different representatives in Congress, and that schools take money. And I remember, as a child, that Iowa was number one in schools. I always, I was
Right.
so proud of that. My Aunt Daisy had taught one room schoolhouse, and she would mention that in her retirement years when we'd have coffee together. And so to see and Dickie being completely a part of this, defunding public schools as well as public universities and community colleges, and that is supporting the private school vouchers, and not only putting money toward private schools where we need to keep that public private separate. Over $1 million is going to the middle people, managing that transfer of public funds. So it's not going to any Iowa student whatsoever. And so that too makes me, really upset. And particularly in our district, our Senate District 44, there's two tiny little church schools. That's it.
Well,
They,
there is no alternative.
there
So
is no
it's going
alternative.
out and there's no
Right,
possibility of even
right.
using it.
And so the economy of it is, and we were already seeing one public school, closing, Orient Maxburg, and that, but in the rural areas, particularly, and our constituents, in that, when the school goes, the town goes. And Van Buren County has one school, for the county, and so we're going to get much more of this sort of educational desert in Iowa, and it just ricochets into all sorts of things. And so I haven't found Dickie having any real opinion. He just kind of goes along, and that. And to me, that's a crying shame. You need to be willing to work for our rural school. It's the essence of who we are in a democracy.
That's great. Now, number three, what's the
Okay.
third?
Mm. The third is reproductive rights, and that. And they had talked about it 2 years ago when I ran for the House District 88. So I talked about this, that the idea of unplanned pregnancies and complicated pregnancies and the need for abortion for each. One is, the right to choose, one's own, uh, reproductive, rights as they're talked about, the control of one's own body. But also, too, when you're trying to have a child, there's a whole list of things that can go wrong. And so when a woman starts to miscarry or she has an ectopic pregnancy or all of these other things that can happen, you also need access to that procedure. And the 6 week abortion ban has really made it impossible unless you have money and can drive to Minnesota or Illinois, for an unplanned pregnancy. But for those women who are really trying to start families, grow their families, and that, and when something goes wrong, as it did for me, 30 years ago, I was able to have access to immediate medical care and then had two other children later on. If I'd been told to go home and bleed it out, I don't know what would have happened. And
Well,
Iowa
mhm.
ranks 50th in OBs per women. There are not the doctors. And especially in the rural areas, we're very lucky here in Oskaloosa. We've got a fantastic county and we have two OBs, on call. But that is extraordinarily unusual for Iowa. And that there's a third of the counties don't have any medical care for women. And
And
so with Adrian Dickey, this is what gets me riled up too.
okay, yeah.
They had a major 1 day session in the legislature. Okay. Everybody was worked up, no matter what side you were on. Okay. It was highly emotional. Okay. Dickie fell asleep at 5:30 in the evening. There's photos of him. He simply didn't care. Like how you could just fall asleep. And that. So, again, it just was another reflection of his own self-interest. Didn't affect him. He didn't really bother, and that, and then voted the party line in that. So those are the three issues that mostly keep me up.
Right. Well, Lisa, it strikes me that these are issues of equity. They're issues that actually impact us economically.
Yes, absolutely.
If families can go to a state where the schools are superior, don't have to worry about someone or someone's husband
Mhm,
doesn't have to worry about them bleeding out and dying because they can't get
mhm.
medical procedures.
Right.
One just wonders where that level of cruelty and
Yeah.
lack
Yeah.
of good sense comes from. But
Yeah.
you know what? That's their issue. We can only come from where we are. And
Mhm.
I am very, very proud to have someone with your background,
Thank you.
historian, you're a historian of Iowa's history. You
Mhm,
truly understand the issues and you understand the consequences
mhm.
of policies. So, Lisa, I wish you
Okay.
the very best of luck and
Thank you, Bob.
go get them.
Okay. Well do.